Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded on Saturday, August 9th, 2025, then deployed to all platforms and YouTube on Sunday, August 10th, 2025. As always, these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. All the information I share with you comes real time through my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history, so for entertainment purposes only. Also, if you remember to like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, greatly helps the channel. We're on our way to certification, 100,000 subscribers, so very grateful to everybody out in the audience. I thought I'd start off just with a couple of quick footnotes. If you want to join our Platinum YouTube membership, the join button's on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. Allows you to participate in live streams I do Friday mornings, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time zone, answer a plethora of questions, go through a lot of information. Also gives you access to hundreds of videos in the archive. People ask all the time, so the join button for the Platinum membership is on the front pages of those two sites. Also, want to start off just by taking a quick shout out here to Hyperledger. She, for years now, has been a wonderful job on just the large amount of timestamps on all these shows. So a lot of people benefit from the timestamps. We answer 60, 70, 80 questions a show, and she diligently goes through all the shows and does the timestamps. So allows everybody the ability to kind of go back and reference information where they want to get it. So big shout out, lots of love, and a big thanks for many years of doing this just on her own to the wonderful Hyperledger. Also, I thought I'd just mention I did do a podcast with the Jeff Mara podcast show, or on the YouTube channel, Jeff Mara Podcast. I think that posted on August 7th of this week. You're welcome to take a run over there. Covered all kinds of topics, the universe and galaxies and the future and spirituality and guides and angels and genetic engineering and all sorts of things. So it was a wonderful time spent with Jeff. You're welcome to go over there and take a look at that podcast. And additionally, I've got another podcast coming up, a show with Amelia Ortiz. His actually podcast is called Just Tap In Podcast. I'm actually doing that show on August 25th. So you're welcome to keep an eye out for that. Happy to get together with Amelia. It'll be the first time that he and I have chatted on a podcast. It'll be a wonderful experience. Also, just a quick footnote and a funny footnote. My executive producer putting the show here is that, I'm a telephone to the other side. The whole purpose of these shows is actually to demonstrate there's more to the universe than everybody understands. It provides a vehicle for people to tap into their own guides and angels. So in a funny way, all the information I bring through for you comes through millions of guides and angels, entities on the other side. So in a funny way, if anybody has any complaints with the information that comes through, please dial up 1-800-Sterling's team, Sterling's Guides. I'm sure they manage a complaint department. They'll be happy to help you. So a funny little just reminder, I'm a telephone, happy to help, happy to bring forth the information. But the most important thing, for everyone to kind of elevate their understanding of the universe, work with their guides and angels, and understand that there's a larger plan for all of us. So great. Okay, we had 1,000 questions come in this week up on our post section of our YouTube channel. If you're unfamiliar, my wife Linda goes through them all, comes up with a group of questions she feels are representative. I answered them for you real time here today. Had 84 questions out of the 1,000. So a lot of questions coming up. We're so grateful for all the participation and the quality questions that come through. So without any further delay, let's get going on today's show. Question 84. Hi, Sterling. Will the GOP be successful in regards to all of the probes they are currently conducting on top Democratic leaders? No, I'm getting it's really more of a diversion tactic, like don't look here, look over there. So it's like throwing a lot of mud at the wall is really what's going on here. It's a diversion tactic. It doesn't appear that any of these large investigations are really going to go anywhere. It's kind of a big dust up, so to speak. 83 in the countdown. Does 45 have the legal right to impose tariffs? It's my understanding that Congress controls the nation's ability to collect and spend money. Will his tariffs be eliminated through actions taken by the courts? I do see this is a bit of going to be a seesaw, right? A back and forth. I know that some of the tariffs went in this week, went into effect. I do see that more challenges in the courts. And so it's going to be going back and forth for quite a while until 45 leaves office. And then a lot of these tariffs are going to be pulled back and kind of re-scrutinized and put back into like a better balance. So, yeah, it's going to be challenged by the courts and go back and forth quite a bit here still. 82. Hello, Sterling. 45 just fired Commissioner Erica McEntarfer, looks like, right, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics over anger about the most recent jobs report not showing numbers that were complementary to 45's administration. McEntarfer, right, was doing her job and is nonpartisan. Many feel this was unacceptable to fire someone for publishing data collected in accordance with normal standards and practices. Do you and your team expect the 45 administration to select a new commissioner for the Bureau and have them report on labor statistics that just provide the reports that they want to see rather than the actual truth in the numbers? I do see 45 is going to install another individual in this position that will be certainly complementary supportive of the 45 administration. And what's really going to happen is going to cause an unraveling in parts of the economy because now the reports won't be believable. So it's going to affect markets overall. What I mean, we don't give investment advice, but not being able to believe, let's say, stats coming from the government is going to be a real problem. That uncertainty, markets hate uncertainty. So, yeah, there is actually another person going to be assigned here, and they will be friendly to the 45 administration. 81, researchers at MIT, in collaboration with institutions like Brigham and Women's Hospital and Massachusetts Eye and Ear Center, have made significant strides in developing therapies to regenerate hair cells within the inner ear, according to MIT News. Okay. However, it's important to clarify this research focuses on the inner ear, specifically the cochlea, where these hair cells are located, and not the middle ear. Will these therapies be successful and be available to the general public next year? I see the therapies are going to be highly successful, but the rollout's going to take longer than just a year. Looks like closer to 4 or 5 years, but looks like good work being done here, according to my team. And within about 4 or 5 years here, it'll be like readily available, really start to kind of impact this area of health around hearing. 80. If Texas is eventually successful in redistricting Texas, will California and potentially other Democratic states start redistricting efforts as well to offset what Texas is doing? Yes, and this effort has already started. So it's happening right now as we speak. You're going to see many states taking up redistricting to try to counterbalance some of these measures. So this has kind of opened up the barn door, let all the animals out, so to speak, on a whole nother round of efforts to try to rebalance everything around districting. 79. I was interested in knowing what's taking place at Skinwalker Ranch in northern Utah. The scientific team is drilling into the mesa on the ranch, and they are finding ceramic pieces very deep inside the mesa. What are they encountering? This is a large Palladian mothership that is being used as a power source for the portal that's on the ranch. So this is installed millions of years ago, and that's what they're experiencing. The very large portal, it's one of the largest in the world, does require some elements of power coming from the ground. There's nuclear energy, nuclear power. And it's a ship that was planted there millions of years ago. 78. Will unions be successful in various courts across the nation in their efforts at reinstating federal positions within the federal government? Yes, in fact, very successful by the middle of 2026. 77, the James Martinez podcast is coming forward right now, indicating we need to sound the alarm before 6G wireless technology is introduced worldwide. What do you see as the outcome for 6G technology and these warnings? So, I mean, there's many stakeholders across many industries, including government and various form manufacturers and companies that are actually looking into this very deeply. 6G, the next kind of wave of wireless technology, will integrate quantum computing, artificial intelligence. It'll be able to garner and gather tremendous amounts of personal data. Now, it's coming, but there'll be watchdogs. There's going to be a lot of efforts put in place. I'm not telling you that it won't go through some difficulty in implementation, but this is all like on a roadmap of Earth's technology. So, yes, quantum computing, AI, integrating the 6G wireless technology. It'll be here by the year 2030, so roughly about 5 years. But it's there'll be a process here. It's coming. But there'll be actually be new guidelines, safety guidelines for a lot of individuals' personal data. So there's always a push and pull to all these industries. So it's coming by 2030, and everybody's actually going to be looking at more increased ways of protecting personal data, including use what they call distributor ledger technology or blockchain technology. 76. Sterling, the UK has recently implemented the Online Safety Act, OSA, of 2023, according to Politico, which includes provisions for age verification on certain online services. America has followed this with their own bill focused on child safety. Do you see the Kids Online Safety Act passing eventually in the House of Representatives? Yes, I absolutely do. Obviously, everybody's concerned about anonymity on the internet, and a lot of companies for many decades here have had a problem with trying to ensure that information that's being served up on the internet is being served up to the proper age group. Many entertainment companies have been using the cutoff age of 13. So if you're 13 or younger, they want to screen a lot of the information away from younger children. So I do see these acts passing, and there will be obviously a reduction in a lot of the anonymity on the internet, but it's coming, and it's been in development for a number of decades. So my team is saying, like, be prepared for it, kind of work with it, but it is coming. I do see it passing in the U.S. 75, will the Texas Democrats remain safe? And will the FBI get involved in locating and returning them to Texas? I see they're going to remain very, very safe. And implementing like the FBI is outside the scope of ability or responsibility for a state governor. But I don't see the FBI in any way transacting a lot of harm on the Democrats. Here again, this is like an example of opening up the barn door, letting all the animals out. It's creating a lot of chaos now back and forth. The good news is now I think both parties, the GOP, Republican Party, Democratic Party, are now rising up to try to match each other, to try to ensure that there's some sort of balance across society. So don't see a lot of harm coming to the Democrats, the left. Don't see a lot of FBI activity. But it is creating now a whole counterbalance effort to try to bring everything back into balance. 74. What do you see as the ongoing effects of global government agencies and companies like Palantir to integrate the human brain with technology? Are we facing an extinction level event and complete dehumanization? This is actually all part of the integration of biology and technology. And this is all based on free will. Nobody will be forced to integrate any of this technology. I want to repeat that. Nobody will be forced to implement any of this technology. But a lot of people will want to kind of delve into this area to have some sort of a computer interface that's available in the body. This will allow access to quantum computing, supercomputers, so that if you can think it, you can create it. Think about wanting every bit of information in the world accessible right away. An interface to a technology via biological interface will make that possible. It's all coming. This is all part of the reset happening in the 3 decades here, 2020 to 2050. But it's, some people talk about the dehumanization of humanity. Remember, extraterrestrials have been using this technology for millions of years, and humanity's just kind of coming around to it. 73 in the countdown. Is it possible for light workers to be from all different and varied life path purposes? Yes, right? So I always replace the word light worker with love worker. Who can be a love worker? Anybody. Doesn't matter what career field you're in, what career path. You can actually want the best for humanity. That's being a love worker. Obviously, one of the core light worker life path combinations is teacher healer. That's two of the 12. But if you look at some other ones like creator innovator or leader or politician or other varied life paths, all of them can be focused on helping humanity. That's setting in the love. So, yes, they can all be from different life paths and still be a light worker or a love worker. Absolutely. 72. Will the Five Eyes intelligence agencies worldwide have a part in exposing 45 and various acts like treason? Yes. And like the Five Eyes agencies, that's like the United States, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, UK. But yeah, they actually all have the information already. And not because it's domestically important to the United States, because it's important to their own domestic affairs. So, yes, the Five Eyes intelligence agencies, as described here, will and do have a lot of information regarding what's happening in the U.S. around electronic election interference, and because it's actually occurring around the world via satellite technology, data center technology, cloud technology. Uh, so, yes, the answer is an affirmative yes here. 71. Are the imaginary friends that people have in very young years of early childhood actually guides, angels, or spirits, or something else? I have very vivid memories of two invisible friends I had as a very young child. So all children can communicate with the other side. When you actually come into this world, your clairs are very open. You're very clairaudient, clairvoyant, claircognizant. You actually have a knowingness along with everything else. And many children actually can see the other side. They can see children that may have died in that environment. They can see family members. They can see guides and angels. So it's very true. Up to about the age of 10 years old, they find that a lot of children around the age of 9, 10 years old tend to shut those clairs down due to fear, or individuals tell them, look, you can't do that, don't do that. That's all very true. I see it all the time. 70 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling and team. When we experience emotional pain, do our loved ones on the other side experience suffering watching us? Or do they experience other emotions that as humans we have difficulty opening to receive their help or hear our guides? Well, here's what's interesting. When you step on to the other side, get to the other dimension, you're in a complete love dimension. You want the best for everybody down here, but they don't encounter any suffering or pain themselves on the other side, let's say in observing you. It's analogous to, parents kind of allowing for tough love to occur. You want the right lessons to occur while you're down here. So no, they don't experience any pain or suffering by seeing some of the things that happen down here. They're encouraging, they're loving, they want you to get through the life lessons, but they really don't experience the kind of pain on the other side. It's really just a complete love dimension on the other side, and pain aligns with the fear dimension. 69. Will 45 be able to get a new census developed which does not include undocumented immigrants? And if he does accomplish this task, how will this affect states and counties across the nation? I see he's going to be successful in starting the effort, but it's not going to go through the completion. So it won't really have a transactional effect on counties or states. I see this here again as analogous to a lot of mud being thrown at the wall, so to speak, creating distractions and creating a lot more chaos. 68. If you have some psychic abilities during life, do they get stronger as you age? No, not necessarily. It's a muscle memory. The more you use it, the better it gets. So you could have an excellent ability when you're young. If you don't use it, the old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. But likewise, like any good craft or skill, the more you use it, the better it gets. You maintain muscle memory. So age actually is no real factor other than the fact of how well you focus on that skill and your intention. 67. Will free energy or zero-point energy, ZPE, be developed and released during the next few years? No, not for several decades. Now, Zero point energy, not to get too technical, is the energy that's available from a quantum machine. If you think about atomic, quantum theory, when it's at absolute zero temperature in an absolute vacuum. It's actually not really theoretically, it's physically, from physics standpoint, absolute zero temperature, absolute vacuum is possible, happens out in space. A lot of extraterrestrials have already developed zero point energy, but it won't be implemented here on Earth for several decades. It will be brought by many extraterrestrial groups, but does not exist here right now due to those factors. So it's coming, and a lot of people like to refer to that as free energy from an atomic or physics standpoint. You're able to release energy or more energy from the quantum reaction than you had to put in. Thereby, it's called free energy. I think a lot of people confuse it with an economic definition. I'm going to power my house forever for nothing. That's not what it means, okay? 66, there are a lot of fires burning in Colorado. Does our spirit team see any rain or updates about the fires stopping soon? I see in several weeks there's going to be some sort of a natural occurrence here. Could be a lot of precipitation that'll give the firefighters the edge on the fires. Looks like, I don't know, massive rainstorm, monsoon. May sound crazy, but there's something here in the next few weeks that gives the firefighters the edge on the fire, starts bringing them kind of back under control. 65. Sterling and team, I know you speak about our angels and guides having certain purposes like birth angels, always keeping us on the planet if it's not your time to go. Are there, in fact, any angels or working guides that help us develop our clairs and connections to them, as well as the one source, the one force? Not directly in that sense. So your angels and guides are like the telephone company, like Verizon, or like AT&T, like T-Mobile. But unless you connect the telephone to the telephone company, the cellular telephone company, you're not communicating. So actually, the onus is kind of on us to work and develop those skills. So there's good techniques developed. I talk about them all the time on our channel. But it's really, there aren't really guides per se that help you develop the skill. They're there as you call out to them. I always tell people, when you're learning how to talk to your angels and guides, say it out loud. Not always a long-term requirement to say it out loud, but when you say it out loud, when you're first developing the skill, it gives you more intention, more force, more energy. But no, it's really up to you to kind of help develop those skills. You do the homework, there are exercises you can do. You're connecting the telephone to the network. 64 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling and team. Do you see robots being used for wildfire operations, especially in dangerous firestorms, along with other dangerous vocations? Yes, in fact, they're already being tested right now. I think MIT is doing some tests. I think Tesla with the Tesla bot is doing tests. Yes, they're actually, this will be a norm coming up here for society within a few years here as costs start to come down the curve. Yes, robots, robotic technology will be used for all sorts of dangerous. And in fact, if you think about, many police departments around the world are already using robotic dogs to go in and do bomb detection or look at surveillance, that kind of thing. It's all coming. Yes is the answer. 63. Sterling, you've mentioned a couple of times that there's supposed to be martial law declared in Texas sometime this year. To see this happening soon. I already see parts of this being implemented right now. If we look at the chaos going on around Texas, around the threats of, let's say, GOP to arrest the Democrats, there's something coming here where it's going to reach critical mass. And it does appear there's going to be some sort of a martial law situation around Texas. I don't think it's going to last long, as I've said before. But yes, it looks like we're kind of on the cusp of it. It's actually coming around right now due to a lot of the inflammatory activity that's going on. 62. Reports indicate 45's administration has directed NASA to prepare plans for the termination of two satellite missions known as the Orbiting Carbon Observatories, so it's OCO2 and OCO3. These missions are crucial for monitoring carbon dioxide and plant health globally, providing vital data for scientists. The OCO satellites specifically measure atmospheric carbon dioxide with high precision, offering valuable insights into greenhouse gas emissions and their impact on climate change. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 reportedly contains no funding for these missions. NASA stated that the missions were being terminated to align with 45's agenda and budget priorities. Will these programs be restored? 100% by mid 2026. So it's going to go through a little bit of a hiatus, hibernation period, and then get restored by the middle of 2026. 61 in the countdown. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just announced in a statement last Tuesday that 22 projects totaling $500 million to develop vaccines using mRNA technology will be halted. The Department of Health and Human Services will cancel contracts and pull funding for some vaccines that are being developed to fight respiratory viruses like COVID-19 and the flu. What will be the result of these vaccine contract cancellations? Well, we're going to see a dramatic increase in people not only exposed to these viruses, but people actually dying. Now, this is not a mass pandemic situation, but this is going to be a noticeable increase in people that are affected by these conditions. It's not going to get corrected until we get out into 2026 here again. So funding will be coming back for these programs, but not as we get into 2026. So for the interim period, latter part of 2025, early 2026, there are some ramifications from these decisions. So that straight ahead, that actually is what we're kind of up against right now. 60. I often hear that friends have experienced unusual visitation by animals, insects, birds, etc. after a loved one passes away. Is this only because of their influence on these creatures, or can they actually embody them? Many say things like, I want to fly like an eagle when I pass on. Can you really? No, when you cross over, you can highly influence animals, insects, a lot of those entities here on Earth. So I've come to find out, over doing decades of this kind of work, is that I think a lot of people always think, well, that butterfly, that's my mother, or that eagle, that's my son that crossed over. Not necessarily. You can influence animals to send a message to a loved one. You can stand behind that animal. Let's say a hawk. You can get a hawk to land on your balcony and really stay there for a long time and almost put the energy of that loved one through that animal so you can feel it. So they become like transcommunicators, if you will, for loved ones. So loved ones don't become those things, but they become, in an essence, kind of an extension of your loved one, kind of a transcommunicator. 59, with all the fires and destruction of the wood sources, will we be forced to start and grow hemp to replace wood for housing and other things? No, I get actually there's going to be different types of composite materials developed using 3D printing technology to build buildings and that sort of a thing. So no, I don't see hemp being the primary source of replacement. No. 58. Is there any validity of time travelers from the future coming back and warning humanity of what is to come? Well, not necessarily, but that's what a lot of extraterrestrial groups do, in fact. So, right, remember, extraterrestrials can translate and they can move between various dimensions. When you can move out into any of the other dimensions, that moving faster than the speed of light, time is nonlinear. You can get into the future, you can see the future. Extraterrestrials actually do that on a very regular basis, warning humanity, working with humanity. So Homo sapiens sapiens, no, not necessarily, but extraterrestrials, yes. 57. It appears the NSA, the National Security Agency, a U.S. intelligence organization focused on signals intelligence and cybersecurity, may have conducted an audit of the 2024 election and found that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz actually won the election. If so, who and why didn't they stop 45 from taking office in January? Well, seemingly there was no action taken at that time because they didn't feel they had enough evidence to move forward. That evidence is coming out now real time based on those audits. They actually takes time for this kind of information to wind through a lot of government agencies, so it doesn't happen right away. But it's happening now, as we've talked about before. This aligns with what's called the AIMS strategy. If you're new to the channel, November of last year, my spiritual team, my guides, angels said there would be what they called an AIMS strategy rolling out, AIMS. A standing for analysis of the election, I investigation, M for movement, even involving some aspects of the military, and S for separation. So yeah, it takes a while for the I'll wind through the government. You're going to see a lot of this kind of bubbling to the surface now. 56, do people inherit psychic abilities through family bloodlines as a genetic gift, or can any old person develop those abilities with enough practice? So interestingly enough, all abilities you come down here with are part of your life path blueprint that you selected. It actually does not genetically get passed down. I hear a lot of people say that. My mother, my grandmother was psychic. What it really aligns to is your extended spiritual soul family on the other side. It's true. Some soul families, they might lean in more towards psychic and mediumship because that's the way they want to help the world. But genetically, no, it actually is part of what you put on your life path blueprint. There may be families, soul families, very aligned with psychic and mediumship gifts, but they choose not the next incarnation to focus on that. So it's really not genetic. It's all about your free will. But some soul families like to stay aligned to certain areas. 55. Why are some spirits able to send us signs like feathers and coins, while other spirits communicate through feelings? Is one harder for them to do than the other? Yes, it takes a level of skill and practice from the other side to actually physically create objects, physically place a nickel, dime, or quarter in the middle of your living room, physically to lay a feather on your doorstep or put it in your car seat when your car was locked. Yes, it takes skill. Angels, spirits learn it, family members learn it on the other side, but it just takes skill, it takes energy, and that's why not everybody does it. It actually is a little simpler to transmit, energy and thoughts and feelings than it is to physically create an object here in this world. 54. In regards to Jack Smith, did he withdraw his significant cases against 45 because the cases became too big and not just about the documents? Are there elements of treason, the Epstein files, election fraud, and the RICO case all part of the larger picture elements that will come into play on an international stage or at scale? Does this collectively bring an end to a lot of the MAGA-based control? Yes, this is all part of the significant elements all coming together that we've talked about that relate to offshore entities and a lot of things happening that the RICO case was one of them, organized larger organizations affecting some sort of a result, working collectively together. It's all coming together, but yes. So Jack Smith, very aware of it. He's actually working with international groups, ICC, even NATO, but many groups coming together to actually produce the results that we're all going to see here in public. 53. But I think you're asking after the cases, why did he withdraw? Yeah, it took a while to get this all together and to garner support for what he was doing. So it just takes a while to get this all together. 53. When a person chooses a life path of helping humanity, do they receive increased or special assistance from angels and guides? Not necessarily, but it does relate to like being an old soul or a new soul. That relates to a number of reincarnations. When you get to old soul territory, you're pushing towards 100 reincarnations or over. It really has a lot to do with your life path blueprint, if you're an old soul, if you're a new soul, and kind of the life path designation. But if you're helping humanity, it does align completely with your blueprint, what you came down here to achieve. 52. Dear Sterling and team, I live in New South Wales, Australia. Last year, I was at my friend's farm in a rural area west of Sydney. We saw a strip of blue lights in the night sky with what looked like a dark cigar shape behind the lights. The lights tracked across the sky and seemed to disappear once we noticed it. What did we see? This is one of several Pleiadian motherships active in that area doing surveillance, and actually there's shuttle ships moving back and forth between various areas of the world and those motherships. You witnessed a mothership. 51. Ohio Republicans are looking at aggressively gerrymandering several districts similar to what Texas Republicans are doing. As counteracting measure, will Ohio Democrats follow what Texas Democrats are doing? And will it stop the redistricting? So we touched on this earlier in the show, a little bit different flavor of the question, but this opened up the floodgates for a lot of parties, both Democratic and GOP Republican here, actually it's almost like a massive food fight. And, that might be a funny way to reference it, but it's going to help strike a balance, balance, counterbalance here, what's going on. So, yeah, all this redistricting fight for both parties is now going to get very aggressive. 50. What phenomena is controlling the portal at Skinwalker Ranch? Is actively controlled? Who is controlling it? It's a natural Earth phenomenon installed by several extraterrestrial groups millions of years ago. So it's not being controlled. It's almost like building an airport, and then the airport works. Planes come in, planes come out. Now, some people, manage traffic control. No traffic control required for that gateway. But once it's installed, nobody's controlling it per se, but millions of entities have the ability to use it just like an airport. In fact, I've referred to Skinwalker Ranch many times years ago as an extraterrestrial airport. That's what it is. 49. In July 2025, my daughter was visited on her condo balcony by a large hawk. Was this a passed over loved one? It kept making loud calls at her, but it stayed while she ran and got her phone to take a picture. And this resonates with a prior question here, right? Loved ones. In your case, this was a female member of your family, looks like at the grandmother level, coming by to say hi. But remember, on the other side, loved ones can facilitate that, affect animals, get them to kind of reach out, interact with us. 48. I just learned that the blue whales have stopped singing, and scientists are saying it's a warning sign. I read that they may be starved of their natural food source. Do you have any insights as to how this might be stopped or why this stopped at the singing? It's all related to global climate change, believe it or not, and a reduction. So it's the temperatures of the water, reduction in food sources for these whales. It's the blue whales. Yeah. It's just this is an artifact of global climate change. As things start to change around the global climate change area, the next 5 to 10 years, start to turn the ship around, they'll come back to singing again. 47. In one of your recent shows, Sterling, you mentioned that 45 will be proven to not have been legitimately elected to either term. During his first term in office, he appointed many federal judges that were not considered qualified. Will these appointments be reversed when it comes out that he never actually had the right to appoint them in the first place? A lot of these appointments will be unwound when all the truth, the electronic election interference comes out into the public. So a lot of these appointments will be unwound. Not all of them, but something like 2/3 of them, at least 2/3 of them will be. 46. Do you or your team see 45 accepting or receiving the Nobel Peace Prize? No, I do not see this taking place. I see people trying to get him nominated. I do see all that. I don't see actually it taking place for him. 45. Do you see Greg Abbott losing his seat in 2026? Yes, I see they'll be replaced by another GOP governor. It looks like he'll be replaced. 44. There's a new political party in Mexico called Republicano, looks like. This party is aligned with MAGA ideology and goes against the current Mexican people's best interest. Do you see this party flourishing? I do. It actually looks like this party is being supported by a number of offshore groups. Could in fact be Russia here, but I do see it being supported by offshore groups. It looks like it'll be heavily funded and will stay in place for at least a good decade here. It does, yeah. 43. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas says he'll remove any Democrat that leaves the state so that the vote on the redistricting cannot move forward. Will he be successful? No, it's going to generate numerous court cases, kind of a different flavor of kind of the same question. Going to generate a lot of different court cases, a lot of chaos here, and the fact that both political parties are going to go at it with each other, and in the end, the redistricting won't be successful in Texas. 42. Hi, Sterling. When someone says an event or something else isn't in someone's Akashic records, for example, becoming a millionaire, does that mean our free will is limited to what's already in those records? Is there no way to change or rewrite that? Good question. So here's a way to look at this. If you look at very significant events on your life path, let's say you win the lottery, it's $100 million. That is absolutely on your life path. The reason being that everybody's life path is interconnected. And with that, let's say tremendous sum in lottery winnings, you might be starting an animal rescue or children's medical research or something going on. Now, can you effectively create, smaller wins here and there? Sure. Remember, free will interacts with your life path on the three S's: speed, scope, and scale. You can change the scope and the scale of all things you get involved in, but can you massively change your life path? No. So, can you create a win for X number of dollars? Sure. Can you create a win for $100 million, for example? No, if it's not your life path, because actually it does affect all the other life paths around you. So, speed, scope, and scale always affect everything you're involved in. 41. I am wondering, in the medical cases of fertility treatments that use a sperm or egg donor, do they have an ongoing spiritual connection with the child who is born to non-related parents? For example, are all of the individuals involved in the process part of the same extended spiritual family on the other side? Yes, everyone that you interact with on this side of the planet is actually part of your extended spiritual family. That includes donors, that includes adoptive children, that includes stepchildren, stepfathers, stepmothers. Put everything in the same hat, if you will. Everything that you're moderately or directly connected with, or somewhat indirectly connected with, is certainly around a family situation. Even with the case of donors, they're all connected with your extended spiritual soul family on the other side. You'll find that out when you cross over. 40. You mentioned that when you went to the bank one occasion, you could see people that have passed on. Is this something you can stop or turn off if you need a break? Do you get constantly bombarded with messages? I pretty much see them all the time. This person is referring to the fact that decades ago, when I first started using this ability a lot, I walked into a Bank of America. There were like 12 people in line, but I saw like another 50 people that were standing around all these other people that were in line, and they were relatives and grandparents and even children that had crossed over at a young age. And so it's just a matter of like observing people in a crowd. Yes, you can kind of turn the gift on and off. That particular side of the gift doesn't really bother me because I don't allow people to bombard me. So it's not like the other 50 people were running at me. A lot of times we can observe each other. I acknowledge them, they acknowledge me, but don't allow them to run at me. So yeah, it's part of like controlling the gift. For anybody that uses this gift, you do have to learn how to control it, set boundaries, turn it on and off if you need to. But that particular example, those examples don't bother me because I do see large groups of people around other people all the time. 39. Hello, Sterling. I recently saw a news story with footage showing thousands of food and medical supplies from countries meant for the people of Gaza just sitting nearby for weeks at a time with no ability to distribute those in dire need. The explanation was a law that prohibits the supplies from being delivered because it was a mile outside of where it can be delivered. Is this true? The exact nature of the law I'm not getting is necessarily that. I'm getting that there are certain districts that are dangerous or cut off because of a lot of attacks or bombing. So there's certain districts. I'm not getting, let's say, the exact alignment, a law regarding what they're saying here because it was a mile outside. No, it actually has more to do with like restrictions on movement of people. So I'm not getting that direct correlation with that law, but it looks like this is a dynamic situation on how people are restricted in movements. So where aid gets to or doesn't get to has a lot to do dynamically with what's going on like day to day. I don't get relates directly to a law is what this person's asking. 38. When we meet our extraterrestrial friends for the first time, is there a proper or friendship way to say hello and greet them? Not necessarily. They know every intention you have before you ever say a word. So before you ever get close to them, they understand everything about you, your intention, what you're thinking. So really, it's not so important how you say hello. They already know all about you as you move up to them. This is, by the way, this is why a lot of this is being handled very, very carefully. Now, I talk about the fact that extraterrestrial families are very protective, for example, of their children, especially the mothers and the females. So, if you ever get close to an extraterrestrial family, and a lot of people will not, because the families themselves, that whole family unit situation is not going to just pop up around somebody randomly. Now, if it ever does, Please do not go near the children because they know your intention. They're very protective, and very dangerous situations can happen if you get close to extraterrestrial children. I call that out all the time. They're really not going to be a situation for a lot of people, but some people it may. If you run in a very remote area of the world, stand back. But no real way you have to greet them. They're telepathic. They read your thoughts. They read your intention. 37, often people talk about karma. Is karma a real thing in our present lives or from past lives? So, karma relates to the specific group of life lessons you came down here to learn. So, it's the group of life lessons. A lot of people I find use the term, what I'll call incorrectly. They talk about it as like it's a debt to a bank. I'm working off karma from a prior life. I had one individual in a session one time saying, I'm having a lot of bad luck. Am I working off karma from my children's past lives? I said, no, so karma are the direct set of lessons you came down here to learn. Not necessarily. Now, you may have done some things in prior lives that now you want to change it up, switch it up in this lifetime. So the group of life lessons you select certainly can be related to the things you experience, but it's not a debt or something you're carrying forward like into this life. 36. We are new to Ohio, and I've heard a great deal about the Mothman. I read a story that the 1967 Silver Bridge collapse, people recall seeing the Mothman. Is this creature real? If so, what is it really, and why does he show up before tragic incidents like the bridge collapse? It's a form of extraterrestrial, and I see them a lot around West Virginia. So, like in that area, they're actually a form of extraterrestrial that is around to help, supportive, and try to help wherever they can. So, yeah, it's real. In a way, it has some similarities to the men with black hats. Not to be confused with the men in black, which are more ET focused, protecting them. But the men in black hats, so to speak, they warn people of events coming up. If you see them, a lot of times people wonder why I saw them. They might be near an airport. Then the next day there's some sort of an airline accident. But the Mothman or Mothmen, there are a number of them, are extraterrestrial. They're benevolent. They're around to warn and help. 35, will the central bank in the U.S., the Federal Reserve System, collapse in 2025? No large scale collapse of the Federal Reserve System. No. You can see a lot of vulnerabilities in some banks, not a collapse, but there's a reorganization going on for stability and leverage and to create good foundations, financial foundations. But for this question here, the central bank, the Federal Reserve System, no, it's not going to collapse. Do not see that on the horizon. Do not see that for 2025, 2026. I do not see that. 34, hello, Sterling and team. The housing and construction have plummeted in the Phoenix, Arizona area. When do you see this getting better and the work returning back to normal? So first off, I don't see this as plummeting. They're not saying my team's not saying it's plummeting. This is like a course correction, like a lot of areas around the world and even around the nation. You get a little bit of a course correction with pricing, scale, supply and demand. However, it looks like within about a year to 2 years, things will start to feel a little more normal in this area. Who's ever asking about Phoenix, Arizona? So you can look as you get out into kind of the mid to latter part of 2026, start to feel more normal. 33, will the reported 45 White House $200 million ballroom actually get constructed? No, 45 will be out of office before any real construction takes place. 32, South Florida Tri-Rail system or train system spans 3 counties in Florida, which are Palm Beach, Broward County, and Miami. It also travels to airports and many rely on it. State funding cuts are in play. The Florida Department of Transportation, the FDOT, reduced its annual contribution to the Tri-Rail system from over $40 million to $15 million starting in July 2025. This significant cut creates a $27 million shortfall. More like 25, I guess, if I do the math, right? There are now discussions that as of 2027, there may be no funding for the tri-rail system. What do you see for the future of this rail system? Will it keep running or shut down? I do see it's going to temporarily be closed down like in 2027 and then reopen like a year later. So it's going to go through some sort of a disruption in service here, but then it'll get restored. So yeah, there's a disruption, but it's not like a complete failure of this tri-rail train system. But yeah, it's going to be a disruption. The disruption could be 6, 8, 10 months worth, and then it'll come back online. 31 in the countdown. Many psychics say that due to free will, timelines are difficult to project, and that situations also can change because of the same free will. How is it that you are able to share your visions and they are so often go unchanged and right on target regarding timeline? I would just tell you it owes to like larger groups of entities on their side. I'm just a telephone, but the millions of entities that kind of come through. Remember, they have more of a purpose and an intention and want to help more of humanity. So that I think that owes maybe some of the more timeline accuracy. Also, remember the whole purpose of doing this work is to show everybody there's more to the universe than you know, and everybody has the ability to connect with their angels and guides. So I think you see a lot of the timing aspects. We do a lot of predictions on these shows at the end of the show. And then my office team puts up what they call hot off the presses on our post section of our YouTube channel, showing the prediction at the end of the show, and then the actual news story on NBC or CNN or wherever it comes up, or Reuters news service, actually showing where it comes up. So it has more to do with, I think, the teams of guides, their intention on the other side, and what they're trying to get across to humanity. I'm just the conduit for that. 30. Will the Supreme Court rule with Louisiana lawsuit stating that black majority voting districts are discriminatory and strike down the Voting Rights Act? I do see the Supreme Court ruling that they think it's discriminatory in some of these districts. So it's going to be a bit of a seesaw here. It looks like the Supreme Court will say that it's a discriminatory practice. And then there's some constitutional amendments coming within another year or two here. They're going to start to kind of re-justify that or change that around. So it looks like short term, Supreme Court will rule it's discriminatory. Yeah. 29. Elon Musk, the Boring Company, is building a $100 million underground transit system in a major southern city, Nashville, Tennessee, called Music City Loop. State officials announced this ambitious project to create a 10-mile tunnel connecting Nashville International Airport, BNA, to the downtown Nashville area. Do you see this project going through to completion? Yes, I see it being completed by in a couple of years here, like by 2027. I do not see it stopping. I do see it going through the completion. I am picking up there may be an uproar with a lot of political or civic groups. I'm not sure what's going on here with all this, maybe disruption in traffic flow or something going on here. But I'm seeing it's going to go through the completion. 28. Will there be a cure for the autoimmune disease, chronic inflammatory, is it demyelinating polyneuropathy, CIDP, be found in the near future? It looks like, say, chronic inflammatory, demyelinating polyneuropathy, CIDP. It's a mouthful. I do see like the first medications are going to be released for this by the year 2035. So that's roughly 9 to 10 years from now. But my team's saying they told me 2035 for medications in this area. Again, not a doctor. 27. Hi, Sterling. What do you see taking place in the long term relative to El Salvador's president? Is it Nayib Bukel's recent approval of indefinite reelection to the presidency, meaning no term limits? I see the majority of his supporters are supporting that change, and so that's going to stay in place. I don't see a change in this particular question here, the fact that indefinite reelection to the presidency. So he's going to stay in place for at least a good decade here. 26. Last week you indicated all plant life is sentient. If I trim a branch off of my tree, isn't this cruel? No, this is simply like a haircut. So, no. Now, chopping down a tree, that does affect the tree's life. They're sentient beings. But branches, they appreciate that sometimes. Sometimes it makes them feel more vibrant, like there might be a branch that's breaking or not healthy. So, it's like a haircut. 25. Why are some spiritual gifts not activated or blocked? So, no spiritual gifts are ever blocked. That's kind of the wrong way to look at it. Sometimes you don't use them, you don't exercise them. Sometimes you have fear, depression, high anxiety that can shut those spiritual gifts down. But the spiritual gifts you came down here with are accessible. But in some respects, it's like training. So, sometimes you have athletes that come down here. Maybe they have a great skeletal form. They make great long distance runners, but they need a coach to figure out how to kind of, have the right shoes, the right ability, the right practice. So, no spiritual abilities are ever blocked, but sometimes you have to learn how to kind of utilize them, how to kind of open them up. Not blocked. Blocked denotes that can be something is preventing you from doing it. Nobody's preventing you from doing it. 24. Recently, a memo leaked by Phil Hegseth, Pete Hegseth's brother, indicated 45's administration is considering using the U.S. military across the U.S. to bolster deportation efforts in a way that was similar to the tactics used in Los Angeles recently. Do you see this happening? Yes, I see that there will be an expansion of the kinds of military efforts, like the Guard or the Reserve or whatever's going on in Los Angeles, that it actually will be deployed around the nation. Remember, a lot of this chaos is going to keep going on for 2025 and then start to wind down as we get into 2026. It doesn't mean that the current administration will not be removed from power in 2025. There's always a lag effect to all the things that were happening or put in place, okay? By the way, I see that many state governors are going to challenge this the same way like Gavin Newsom in California challenged it, and that will mitigate the effects. 23. Hello, Sterling. The K-pop girl group New Jeans has been involved in a significant legal and corporate dispute with their agency ADOR, which is a subsidiary of HYBE. The dispute began in November of 2024 with the group's announcement to terminate their contract, claiming mistreatment through the agency filed a lawsuit to assert its contractual rights. A court ruled in favor of the agency ADOR, issuing an injunction that restricts the girl group New Jeans from conducting independent entertainment activities without prior consent. To see New Jeans K-pop group being able to move forward and release new music and conduct future concerts. I do see it being able to move ahead, but it's going to be costly. So there's some sort of an agreement made here where this group, New Jeans, going to have to make some significant payments. So they're going to be able to somehow work through it, get a release, an authorization to get out and do live events and concerts, but it's going to be costly. So it won't be free of charge. There's always ways to work around things. I'm just kind of reminded of, I remember when Prince had a lot of difficulty with his record label, not to anybody on the bus, I think it was Warner Records. They wouldn't release it from his contract. So he had to kind of recreate everything and name himself as the artist, formerly known as Prince. And legally, he was able to navigate that and get out and do what he needed to do by renaming himself the artist, formerly known as Prince. So there's always ways to mitigate this and work around it, but it's going to be a little costly for this girl group, but they will get to a place where they're going to start doing live concerts again. It looks like as you get out into next year. And I'm also seeing they're going to be under new management. 22 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling. Some psychic mediums seem to be in direct contact with someone across the veil and conduct a one-on-one conversation, while others seem to be pulling psychic facts about a person who has passed away or about the person sitting for the reading. How does true mediumship work, and how do you know when you've made direct contact with someone on the other side? So these just represent different flavors of the same thing. So if you consider any kind of a direct connection, a mediumship connection with someone on the other side, sometimes people, I find with many psychic mediums, the individual just wants to talk, or maybe they want to provide facts to the person that's sitting in front of you to say, look, it's me. I'm validating it's me. So, and I find that sometimes that you can actually engage the person sitting in front of you with the person on the other side. The person in front of you might say, I'd like to ask, my loved one a few questions and get an answer from them, have a dialogue. They're different flavors of the same thing. They all create, different levels of energy, right? Creates a lot more energy just to allow the free-flowing conversation as opposed to like assimilating facts and bringing them back and forth, but different flavors of the same thing. 21, during our life review, we feel all of the emotions we create in everyone's life we encounter during this life. Is the degree and intensity of negative feelings what creates our individualized version of what humans have labeled hell, because there isn't an actual hell? So someone who caused far-reaching deep pain and suffering as a human will likely have a longer soul level pain-filled life review. If that's correct, will that soul continue to feel ripple effects of pain? The answer is essentially yes to all of the above. The reason you go through a life review is to resolve and acknowledge all of the experiences you had, all the feelings you transmitted, you felt or transmitted to other people. Likewise, if you did a lot of things when you were on Earth that create a lot of havoc and problems, you will experience higher degrees pain on the other side as you experience what other people went through. It is all part. Some people do classify that as a very low level experience. Certainly people can characterize that as a level of hell. I get it. 20. What do future treatments for autoimmune diseases look like for Hashimoto's or celiac disease look like? They're all linked in some way, I think. I'm not a doctor, but linked in some way to some cellular problem or problem at the cellular level here with the immune system. But genetic engineering here again, about a decade away, even for these particular problems. Remember, right now, genetic engineering is focused on Alzheimer's and different forms of cancer, breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, lung cancer, sickle cell problems, disease. So there's a number of things that genetic engineering is focused on right now. And as we get out further in time, these other diseases will be worked on. As we get out past the 3-decade reset, the year 2050, a lot of these diseases will be tackled and handled. All of them. 19, hello, Sterling and team. Will CRISPR genetic engineering technology be used for animals like cats for diabetes or feline leukemia and other animal-related devastating diseases? Yes, it's all part of scientific research going on. So it's interesting around genetic engineering. Sometimes mice are experimented with. Sometimes there's studies being done with humans. But there's a bilateral benefit. As each is discovered, these breakthroughs happen, they actually affect the other. So even breakthroughs that are mostly applied to humans, a lot of times those insights help with animal diseases. So genetic engineering will be used across the board for every living species here on Earth. 18, you said that CRISPR technology will extend our lifespan by about 40 years. Does that apply to Gen X, those of us currently in our 50s and 60s, or will it be longer or later generations? So remember, it's a progressive change. So it doesn't happen overnight. So not everybody will experience an extension of 40 years of their life, but maybe towards the end of your life, you experience the fact that your lung cancer was cured, your heart disease was cured. That gives you another 10 or 20 years. So it's progressive, right, as it rolls out. I think that's important. Everything, does not happen overnight. There's a gradualness to the way everything rolls out in society. 17, many individuals enjoy following the astrological and moon phase cycles for gardening, setting intentions, etc. If the moon was set there by extraterrestrial beings millions of years ago, is there any validity in moon practices? So here's the thing, not any real sense, but let me explain. The Earth affects a gravitational change on the Earth. The moon affects gravitational changes on the Earth. So, by virtue of the fact that mass does affect, now humans are 60% water approximately. So, the moon affects a lot of gravitational effects on water masses on Earth. Yes, so on that effect, as the moon moves, yes, it has gravitational effects. If you get into astrology, and I've said this before, it's interesting. The millions of entities that I work with on their site, they've never quoted astrology to me. So they never said, "Look, you got to be careful. You know, the moon's a Gemini, or there's a Mercury retrograde going on." But physically, from a physical standpoint, the moon does affect the Earth, all bodies of water, and it's certainly human. So there's an effect of that. I can't speak directly to moon cycles, let's say, what this person's asking about, but that's kind of the disparity between, let's say, the physical gravitational effects and astrological effects. So the moon certainly has an effect. The moon, the Earth's moon. 16, I'm wondering, once we cross over, do we keep our earthly names or do we have a unique soul name identity different from our earthly names? So physical names are part of your soul DNA. So every name you ever called yourself when you were down here on Earth, part of your soul DNA. It's like part of your mini portable Akashic record. But what I experience on the other side is that guides and angels don't use names. They have what's called like a spiritual or soul QR code. You recognize them from their spiritual or soul code. But yeah, names, they're part of your library of all the things you've experienced. And people very often will answer to whatever name they had down here, whatever the lifetime. 15. Won't the climate crisis have to be mitigated in order for the Great Reset to occur by the year 2050? It will, but it is all part of the 3-decade reset from the year 2020 to 2050. So it is, climate change will be mitigated. Big changes in terms of turning around climate change over the next 5 to 10 years here. It's going to take another, 10, 20 years to get it all resolved. Yes, but we're turning the ship around. 14. Is there hope for federal workers and probationary employees who are wrongfully terminated for performance to get justice or safely get their job back? Many of these jobs will return by the summer of 2026. You'll see a lot of these federal jobs return, some even faster than that. So the answer to this is yes, a lot of jobs will come back. And in fact, my guides are just reminding me a lot of jobs are already starting to come back now. I think was it NOAA, the National Weather Service or whatnot, already had to rehire a number of employees because they got laid off from critical job functions. But you're going to start to see this again progressively start to turn around, and a lot of these federal jobs are going to come back. 13. I've never been that interested or focused on Bigfoot over the years. I recently watched a video called Paranormal Bigfoot, Tara Harris Medium. Her story was fascinating. An explanation of what they really are felt more real to me than anything else I've heard. Would you give us an explanation of what they are? So I've covered this on other shows, but yes, they're a form of extraterrestrial species down here mining resources on Earth. And they actually are very good shapeshifters. So that's why they shapeshift into a form that looks like a very large, hairy beast or hairy animal. They never show themselves the way they actually look as extraterrestrial beings. Actually quite tall, quite translucent. But yes, they are extraterrestrials, and they're very good at evading detection due to the fact that they can transform their appearance. 12. You've indicated that everyone is either on a 7-year or 10-year life cycle down here on Earth. How can we know which life cycle we're on? And does a person pass at the end of their current cycle, or can death occur in the middle of the cycle? So first off, it's easy to tell many times if you're on a 7-year or a 10-year cycle by looking back over your life. Now, every life cycle starts off with the feeling, who am I, what am I, where am I going? So you can actually kind of look back sometimes, say, what periods of my life did I feel kind of lost? Who am I, what am I, where am I going? Every life cycle also has very important occurrences that could be birth, death, graduation, new job, loss of a job, new career, loss of a career. But that everybody lays it out in chapters of a book. So if you're on a 7-year cycle, it happens more rapidly. If you're on a 10-year cycle, your life cycles happen a little slower. At the age of 70, the way the math works out, everybody completes and starts a brand new life cycle. But, if you're in front of any psychic medium, usually you can ask them, oh, am I at a 7 or a 10-year cycle? But simply put, very practically, pragmatically, kind of look back over your life, see where the biggest events occurred, see where you felt lost, see where you felt a sense of completion. At the end of each life cycle, that's what they call a completion phase. You feel like, okay, I've resolved what this life cycle is all about. I feel good. Sometimes there are massive moves you make. You might make a massive move internationally and finally get settled down at a certain point in time. That's usually coming towards the completion of a cycle. 11 in the countdown. Now, when will political leaders and media organizations directly confront 45 about the persistent lies, falsehoods, and policies that have contributed to division and damage in our country? So it's already started. So the very fact that facts are coming out with news organizations and universities and Election Truth Alliance and NSA, and it's actually all coming to the surface right now. And it looks like a lot of news organizations are going to lean into that as well. It does remind me of the book, the classic children's book, The Emperor's New Clothes, right? And what happens in that fable is everybody realizes the emperor has no clothes. So we're going through that phase right now where everybody's realizing the emperor has no clothes, but media organizations are going to follow along with that. 10. Hello, Sterling. As an American who is black, when will black people achieve equality, respect, and reparations for their free labor and atrocities they had to endure while building this country? In a macro sense, all of the sectors of the population will experience a rightfulness, a justification in this 3-decade reset. So a lot of elements on this person's asking about the black population, but lots of segments in the population, Native Americans, every segment that has been minimalized here is actually going to feel some sort of a sense of fairness and completion that's going to happen. It's part of the 3-decade reset. As far as reparations, I don't see significantly reparations in this area for any particular group. Going to be some sort of a recalculation and a redistribution of wealth along with the wealthy paying their fair share. But as far as like specific reparations, my team doesn't ever really see that happening in a significant way that a large part of the population would see reparations. So that's what they're telling me to share here. 9, can you please help us understand why the Republicans in Congress will not stand up to 45 by now? Will they ever? Why not resign if they or family members are being threatened? Do they really not care about the damage being done to this country on their watch? So it's a true fact that many are concerned with their perception of power, whatever power they feel they have, they don't want to give that up. And it's a very selfish way to look at hurting humanity. But by and large, it's a fear for I've got a certain amount of power and status. I don't want to lose it. Not a right way to go through life, that's for sure. But that's what's behind a lot of it. And you're going to see a complete really a complete exit of a lot of people in Congress as we come up here over the next number of months and even a couple of years here. A lot of exiting going on, a lot of new people coming in. There's really going to be a rebirth of a lot of people that didn't stand up across every political segment on both parties, didn't stand up for what was right for humanity and the world. 8. I read that some Native American tribes, including many from the Cree community, believe their ancestors came from stars. Do they have encounters with extraterrestrials? So first, everybody started off as a star seed. Everybody started off in one of, thousands of different star systems or galaxies. But in terms of the Cree community, yes, they started off in a number of different star systems, and yes, they had exposure to extraterrestrials, as many civilizations have over time, including like the ancient Egyptians and Chinese, and a lot of civilizations over the course of history, going back millions of years, have had exposure, direct contact with extraterrestrials. 7, is it possible for a person's soul to leave the body before the body actually shuts down, such as in the case of advanced dementia? Yes, it's very common. that your birth angels will actually offer you the ability, the opportunity to leave early. I see many times, very common, that individuals will start their separation process like 3 days before their body gives up. They'll start to transition. It's also true for major accidents. So you think about 9/11, you think about major airline accidents. Many of those individuals are offered the ability to exit their bodies and leave before their physical body ever reaches the final trauma, the final accident. So yeah, very, very true. Not just for dementia patients, but it's a very common practice in the spiritual realm that you're given the opportunity to leave. And many times, actually from a more macro standpoint, if you look at your exit point, many times people have a little bit of a buffer around their exit point of plus or minus 2 years. So some people might say, I want to leave now, want to leave early, don't want to be here anymore. Other people might say, I want to hang on for every last minute because my family will be in chaos if I leave. So there are different ways of approaching it. 6, a postgraduate trainee doctor was raped and murdered inside the R.G. Carr Medical College and Hospital, a state-run institution in Kolkata, India, on August 9, 2024. She was found in the hospital seminar hall after working a grueling 36-hour shift. An autopsy confirmed sexual assault and revealed numerous injuries, including a broken neck and shattered glasses that caused bleeding from her eyes. So far, nothing major concerning the victim nor the perpetrators has been revealed. Do your guides see the perpetrators being punished, ultimately bringing the justice to the victim? I get somebody's already been arrested for this. So I'm not sure who asked this question, but my team is showing me like a bit of completion here. Somebody's already been arrested, and there are accomplices here that actually help with this crime or conceal the crime. They're going to be brought to justice. So it looks like everything is coming to pass here, as I'm seeing with this situation here. Terrible situation. I want to send a lot of love and light, individual and her family, but I'm seeing that justice is absolutely coming like a freight train coming in here. Also, my team remind me a lot of DNA evidence is coming in too. So I don't know if that around that time, what was the year here? They said this was 2024. It was fairly recently, but a lot of DNA evidence coming in here. I guess testing of DNA to figure out who's involved, who accomplices were. Yeah. 5, will there be a cure for all types of epilepsy? If so, will it cure people who exist now or have it now and are yet to be born? Yeah, CRISPR, genetic engineering technology, by the year 2040, will actually have a handle on this area of humanity, epilepsy. 4, will people, including musicians and artists, be targeted, arrested, or removed on social media platforms for expressing their concerns against the current undemocratic actions against the USA and the world at large? Well, there are, yes. So they're already being targeted right now. So it is a good idea for everybody to kind of temper how they get involved in public spaces. A lot of chaos, a lot of drama going on, a lot of hate going on. I don't see massive arrests if this person's asking, but I think everybody has to be somewhat tempered with everything they say. Doesn't mean you don't stand in your truth, but doesn't mean you always, you get on top of a building or rooftop and scream for weeks at a time. I understand artistically, a lot of people want to say what they feel, and I encourage that. I would say cautionary note here, just, do it in a way that gets the messaging out, but is tempered, okay? 3, 2, and 1 in the countdown. I always take notes before I start these shows, so I'll read those back to you. 3, do your extraterrestrial friends have anything they want to share with us? Keep in mind that you cannot always see everything we are doing for humanity, nor should you be aware of everything we are doing to help humanity on a daily basis. But the results of everything we are doing and have been doing for millions of years will be revealed very shortly. We are working diligently to stabilize the world and its varied conflicts around the world. Number 2, what do you see coming up next week? New global multiple country efforts to completely stop the Ukraine-Russia war that will lead to significant results. New ways to stop human trafficking using AI and GPS systems and monitoring systems. New advancements in the areas of EV technology, electric vehicle technology, that will lead to new battery improvements that will be announced. New developments in the areas of education that will enable hearing and visually impaired students to learn at a faster pace. Efforts pushed forward for pardons on Maxwell and Diddy. New efforts to nominate 45 for the Nobel Peace Prize that will be unsuccessful. Health event for 45 that will be made very public, not death, but raises serious concerns across the GOP base. And number one, do you have anything your guides want to share? Please be calm in the face of all things you fear in life, and this will give you the inherent strength we all have every time to overcome any obstacle in your path. On that note, that concludes the show being recorded today on Saturday, August 9th, 2025, deployed to all platforms on Sunday, August 10th, 2025. Again, if you want to join our Platinum YouTube membership, the join button's on the front page of the YouTube channel, Sterling Psychic Medium, as well as our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. And again, just a quick footnote, if you want to go and look at the podcast I completed with Jeff Mara on his YouTube channel, the Jeff Mara Podcast, please go over there, like and subscribe Jeff's podcast. Great interviewer, nice guy. I think you'll enjoy the interaction, covered a plethora of topics. On that note, I'm going to conclude the show today. I'm going to send out a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care. I will see you all again very soon.